Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Dad's Garage. We're working on the Crazy Dad Bumpside here. And today it's time to pull out that instrument cluster that is missing the lens in the middle of it there. And I had made this video previously, and for some reason my phone decided to lose it. So I'm remaking it now after I've actually got the project finished. So ignore the fact that this is out. I'm going to lead up to it here. The first thing that I was doing to get to that is to remove this instrument cluster, and that included, there's 8 screws holding it in here. There's 4 of them along the bottom here, and 4 more of them that go up into the top up here. And by pulling those out, that allows this to come out and come apart. And this is actually a very simple project to do on a Ford truck. This instrument cluster is very easy to get out. It just, those 8 screws, you take it loose and it literally falls out in your hands, and then on the back of it there'll be some more screws. We can take it apart. The gauges on these things come out very easy, and I'm going to talk more about that as we go through this process some. But there we're going. We're going to have you set up so we can launch into it on the next video where we actually pull the gauge cluster out. Alright, that was pretty simple. So we got all those 8 screws out, and when you get that happening, just get a hold of the edge of this and pull it, and it comes out of the dash like that. Now we're hanging there by the wires and the speedometer cable in the back of it. And while I was pulling those screws out, I found that the one that goes in this end hole right here has actually broken the plastic out of there. So that's going to make me want to try to switch this plastic cover too from my wrecking yard one over to the new one. Probably I'm going to look at them a little closer and see how they clean up. We may end up doing some painting on it. I don't even know. So we'll see how that goes. When you get to this point, here's what you've got. I think I can see back in there clear enough. So back behind here, the big thing that's holding on right now is the speedometer cable, and it has a nut on the back, which usually can be undone just that simply. You do that and pull it back, and it comes apart and is separate there. Now, all that we've got left is the wiring harness, and I'm going to jostle you around a little bit here while I get that to where I can see it more clearly. There we go. On this one, looks like we have these push tabs on both sides, and so we got to push both of those in, and it comes right out. Ta-da! There you go, and it falls on the floor. And there you go. That's how you remove an instrument cluster. Yeah, whatever, not really, but you should take a little more care of it than that. But they're pretty durable. They have to be, because they're designed to be beat up in a truck. So there you go. There's the back of it. And we will, let's see. Oh, that's an interesting comparison. So, actually, that's a really interesting comparison. So I have a 72 truck. This is the last year they made the Bumpside body style. This one here apparently came out of a slightly earlier one because we still have a metal case here that the gauges mount in versus a plastic one here. And it looks like, I'm guessing that, okay, we have this primitive printed circuit board here on the back of the gauge panel on this one, and realistically all the insides will swap over from one to the other of these. Here's where your gauges come through and tie into the circuits on the thing. These right here are your lights for either lighting up the panel or for warning lights. There'll be several of them. Here's another gauge and another gauge, and this is your speedometer head right here. So you compare that to our other one. We have the speedometer head. We've got the same gauges in both spots. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights, which matches what we had here. This thing here, I believe that this is a voltage reducer that goes from 12 volts to 6 volts for your gauges. And it looks like that on this one we were probably dealing with a wiring harness. and that harness probably got left in the truck, and I think this was actually just laying in the truck at the wrecking yard, so somebody else had taken it off. So I don't actually honestly know how that attached, but it could have been that it had just a wiring harness that went back here and attached to everything, which would have been the same basic effect. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't have had this, because this hole does not exist over on our other metal backing plate. So anyway, that gives us kind of what it's going to look like from the back. My next step, I'm going to go in and clean this up, and I'm going to take off these little black screws right here. There's 1, 2, looks like there's supposed to be 2 there, and there are 2 here. So somebody must have lost those when they took this thing apart the first time to get that lens out of there. So anyway, I have replacement screws over here if that's the way the thing works out. And we're just going to take these apart and verify that all our parts are there and interchangeable. I see different things here that I'll just have to evaluate what exactly I want to do with the 2 things. But really what I'm after is that plastic lens in there. Worst case scenario, that's all I will get, and I'm quite sure it should be interchangeable. But we'll go to that point, and I'll get them apart, cleaned up a little bit, and show you what we're looking at inside of one of these things.